Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the language edition of 5-Minute Psych. In this 5-minute segment, we'll explore theories of language development, starting with the behaviorist view, which says that language is learned. Then we'll shift to the nativist view, or the idea that we're biologically programmed for language. Finally, we'll consider the interactionist view, or the idea that both nature and nurture interact throughout development to contribute to language acquisition. Obviously, language is learned because kids who grow up hearing English learn English and not a different language. But behaviorists like Skinner argued that adults actually shape a child's language development through reinforcement and punishment. For instance, when a child starts babbling, parents respond enthusiastically to any utterances that sound like a word, dada or mama, and they ignore babbles that don't sound like anything. This continues when the child starts saying words, and now parents respond more happily when the words are pronounced correctly and used in the right combination. Bandura was a little more flexible in his thinking and believed that imitation was a big component of language learning, and that children tend to copy the things that they hear from their parents and then repeat those. Evidence that parents shape their child's linguistic development comes from the fact that most adults all over the world naturally talk to children using child-directed speech, or motherese. This is speech that is slower, very full of inflections and shifts in tone, lots of repetition, and it helps babies learn language. Yes, it seems intuitive that language is learned, but there are some problems with the behaviorist view. First, there's no way that a parent can deliver consequences for all utterances that a child makes, so this alone can't explain language learning. We also know that grammar isn't shaped, because parents will much more likely correct their child when they make a semantic error with perfect grammar than when they make a grammatical error with perfect semantic content. For example, imagine you and your child see a cow in the field. You're much more likely to correct your child if they say, "Look at the horse in the pasture," perfectly, compared to if they say, "Me look, cow." To that, you're much more likely to respond with something like, "Yes, I see the cow." We also know that early errors are creative and not imitative, showing that kids aren't just imitating what they hear. I bet you've never heard an adult say something like, "All gone juice," or "Me want more." Finally, evidence that more than just learning is going on comes from the fact that children learn language really quickly, faster than you and I could learn it. So there must be more to it than just learning. We must be primed to learn language, and this is what the nativist view thinks. The nativist view's biggest supporter was Noam Chomsky, who argued that there are certain universal features common to all languages. He said that we're born understanding these universal laws about language thanks to a theoretical language acquisition device, or LAD. He believed that the LAD is automatically activated by exposure to language and that we're born with areas in our brain specifically for language. So the fact that we learn language so quickly as children is strong support for the nativist view. Not only that, but kids all over the world reach linguistic milestones at similar points in development, even though they're exposed to different languages and experiences. And yes, we also have specific brain areas for language, Broca's area for production and Wernicke's area for comprehension. But the nativist view can't explain everything about language development. Yes, we learn it fast, suggesting we're primed to learn language, but it isn't as easy as the nativist said. We still need to interact to learn. We can't just passively listen, so just being exposed to language isn't enough. Also, it's difficult to imagine what universal features would be common to all the different languages of the world. Finally, the nativists completely ignore the impact of the environment and how learning is important in language development too. The interactionist view is like a happy marriage between the behaviorist and the nativist views because it believes that both nature and nurture continually interact in language development. Yes, children are biologically primed to learn language, but they also need extensive experience to learn language normally. Support for this view comes from a few case studies of people who were language deprived as children. These people attempted to learn language post-puberty, and although they were able to learn word labels for things, they never learned how to use grammar and combine words. This suggests that there's a sensitive period prior to puberty for language learning. Well, we just explored theories of language development by starting with the behaviorist view, then we looked at the nativist perspective before we ended with the interactionist theory. Now, aren't you glad you had 5 minutes?